This next training video is about how to design a session in ThinkTank. This is module number 4 in the session leader training, and here you can see the different modules that we have. We've completed the training introduction, we've done the ThinkTank discovery session, we've gone through how to build collaborative agenda, and you have now selected a session and you design an agenda for that session to use for your exercise. The next thing here is then designing the actual ThinkTank session based on the agenda you have developed. What we're going to do is talk a little bit about the design process. I will demonstrate how you design a simple session, and then when that is done, it is your turn to design a ThinkTank session based on the agenda that you have developed. So let's get into it. The purpose of this module is, of course, to help you learn how best to translate a session plan and agenda into a ThinkTank session. We will look at how to select and create activities, the different types of activities that are used in ThinkTank, and we'll deal with how to put in questions, instructions, how to manipulate permissions, and handle transitions. We will also talk a little bit about how to use the session planning checklist to check the quality of your ThinkTank session. And last but not least, during this module, you will also have some hands-on experience with building a ThinkTank session for your specific session. So, first things first. How do we build a ThinkTank session? Well, I think most of us, we use this type of a model for building a session. In order to make sure that we do it well. First step is to start a new session, which you basically do by accessing ThinkTank as an account holder and then selecting start a new session. You can also start a new session based on a template, so a Think app, so a couple of different ways. But most sessions are started as a new session and built from the bottom up. You have to choose an appropriate session name and a passkey that is easy to communicate and remember to the participants. So that's then you're done with starting a new session. Second thing you do is then you create your agenda, which basically means that you open up the Designer tab and add the different types of activities that are needed. And then you add titles and subtitles and timings, so you have a full view of the agenda on the left side of your ThinkTank screen. Step number 3 is then to go back to the first activity and to design it to what you want to do with that activity. That includes adding text in titles and subtitles, prompts, that includes setting activity permissions, writing in instructions and guidance, and so forth. We usually complete one activity at a time, and then we move on to the next one and design it so we have a full-fledged ThinkTank session based on the agenda that we have developed. Step number 4 in the design process is, of course, to test that it actually works. So what we do here is that we start up a thinker screen, so we can see both the session leader screen and the thinker screen at the same time. We recommend that you have 2 units to do that with. And then we run through the session from activity to activity. We input a little input as a participant would do, and then we test that the session actually flows as designed. Normally we will find a number of things that we've forgotten to do, so this first run through of the ThinkTank session is of course important for ensuring the quality of the session. When that is done, then we do what is called a dry run test with other people involved. So we then take another couple of people to log into our session. We run through the session as we probably would once it's time to really execute it in real life, and we get other people's feedback in terms of how they think the session we're running. And that is our second quality check to ensure that the session will flow well. That is the normal recommended process for how to develop a ThinkTank session. All right, let me show you how you do it in ThinkTank. This is a new session, and you see there's a welcome activity in here. We normally use this one as the starting point. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to double click on the subtext and write whatever I need to identify the session. In this case, it's the introduction to session. The start time, the official start time here is 9 o'clock. Like that. And then I press return in order to execute it. So now I have set up the welcome session. For the first session, I can choose to add a picture, and I will do that by choosing a file here, and I'll go and find my picture. In my library of pictures, I found this one, and I think I'm going to use that as the picture on the front page. And upload, and there we go. There we have our picture. So the first thing I need to do is, of course, to make sure that I know what my agenda is all about. So I take out my agenda document. All right, so on the right side here, I have a welcome where people are introduced to the session by George. Then the next thing I need to have there is an introduction to the purpose and agenda. And I need to get information about how to log in to the wireless internet at the location, and also login information for ThinkTank for users. So that's my first point on the agenda. In order to support this in ThinkTank, we can of course open up the welcome on this screen where people can see this one. However, we might want to get some additional information to the participants in the session, and for that I think we will use a ThinkTank presentation activity. That's at least what we outline in the agenda, and you do that by adding in a crowdsourcing activity. No, sorry about that. Visual activity, that is what's made for presentation. So we drag and drop this one, release it with the left button, and then we have a presentation in here. This is going to be welcome. Double click. Welcome. No, that was not welcome, it was introduction. Double click on the text. This is introduction. Yeah, this is agenda. And people. And this is 0915. Oops. There we go. So now we have presentation activity. In order to upload a PowerPoint to this one, it's really simple. You choose File, and then you go to your library and find your presentation file. And the one I want to upload is called Exercise, Welcome, and Introduction. So I open that one up and upload it. And now my little presentation is now available to be used as an introduction. In order for me to manage what people see here, I need to check to see if there's anything that's green over here. There's nothing here. They will not see that. They will see instructions. Do I want to do that? Well, it depends on if they need instructions for this one. In this case, instructions, I don't have any instructions. I don't think I need to introduce this one. I will do this orally, so I just turn it off. Do I have documents I want to download? Well, right now I don't, so I will turn this one off as well, so they cannot see that tab as well. There are a set of thumbnails here, and the question is, do I want the thinkers to see this in the session? No, I'll probably drive through the presentation one by one, so I don't need them to be able to navigate on their own. In order to make sure that they cannot see this part, I go into the gear wheel here, and then I can see here in the top it says allow thinkers to navigate within this activity, meaning the thumbnails. I want to turn that one off, so they don't have that option. And then I close it up, and then there you go. Now I can see the thumbnails, but the thinkers cannot. So now it's set up to be used as a presentation. What you can see here is an opportunity for people to comment on the introduction. And in this situation, I will turn the comments on. So I'll keep it green, And the box here also makes them able to input comments. If I turn this one off, they cannot input, they can only see comments. I'll turn the opportunity off to add comments. Now my introduction activity is ready for use. Going back to my script, I can see that what I need here is the next step would be to provide practical information. I don't have an activity listed for ThinkTank, so I leave that one go. And then the next step will be to make sure that people can and are logged into the wireless and internet, and so they can access ThinkTank. Now, I have already, when people came to the session, written up instructions for how to use the wireless internet and ThinkTank access. So this is already up, hopefully and probably on the wall, or the information has been given to the participants. So all of that should be good. So the presentation for the welcome and introduction should be okay. People introduction, for that one, I've set up in the same activity a page that can show that one. So I also covered the people introduction. The next step on the agenda is to set up the icebreaker. And the icebreaker here is set up with a crowdsource and an assessment activity. So this is what I'm going to add. And then I will develop a session that delivers crowdsourcing and assessment activity for the icebreaker. So for the next set of activities, I need to add a crowdsourcing activity, which I do here, crowdsourcing activity, and an assessment activity. And for this one, I have a number of different ones to choose from. I remember from my agenda that what I want to do is a numeric assessment, so I'm going to choose this one. However, I don't want to start with all these questions already set up. So in this case, as in most cases, we start with a blank assessment, which is the first assessment. So I'm going to add this one here. All right. So now we've added the 2 extra activities that we need to work on now. So crowdsourcing activities. First one was to brainstorm. Wildest things. And the next activity was choosing the wild thing. And timing of that one was 9:30. And this one, well, it's going to run to 9:45, so I guess the start will be around 9:40. All right. Now I set up these 2 activities. Then I will go back and look at my agenda to see what other activities are needed. In terms of the first point on the first module on the agenda, I now have the crowdsource and assessment activity, and the rest and the next tier is basically a little break, and then a reconvene for the second part of the agenda. So I've actually enabled now the first part of this session. All right. So let's set these guys up. So now we know we have the right activities for this point. The brainstorm standard one comes with some advice about questions to set. So the first thing we usually do is to delete all of these contributions. We mark the first one, hold down the shift button, and then press the last one. So everyone is marked blue, and then we press delete. So now we have a clean activity to start with. Now the brainstorm are normally driven by input, and the input are driven by questions. So we start with inputting a question. In this case, we will start we'll ask people, what is the wildest thing I've done so far?